Work ethic is huge. Integrity is a non-negotiable. Responsibility is huge. And being able to be a role model for the next generation. Whether you're in a position right now where you're not where you want to be, in the future, I can guarantee you that somebody behind you is watching where you're currently at. And once you have that mindset, it changes everything.
Success in business means nothing
if you're losing in other areas of your life.
It's time to stop just building wealth
and start leading with conviction. I'm Jake Tracy.
I'm Sean Skyver, and this is the blueprint for the modern man, mastering real estate, scaling business,
and honoring God and family through courageous stewardship.
Let's get to work. All right, welcome back, listeners. We're here again on the Courageous Stewards podcast with another special guest. We've got Jacob Black here today. I've gotten to know him a little bit, and he's a financial advisor, but he's not focused on that percentage or you're managing your portfolio. He's focused more on relationships and stewardship. He just loves to add value to people in any way he can, whether you're working with him or not. So he's a guy to connect with if you're looking for some guidance in regards to your finances and your wealth building and your legacy, certainly. So Jacob, thanks for being on. Yeah. We're excited to have you. I've gotten to know you a little bit. You got good energy about you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You draw people to you, so we're just glad to have you on today.
No, thank you guys for having me. I'm really honored and looking forward to where the conversation goes. I think it's going to be a good one today. I've been looking forward to.
I agree. I think it is going to be a good one. Let's dive in right away here. Let's just go back.
Yeah.
So we know where you are now and what you're doing, but tell us a little bit about where you started.
Okay.
And then how you got here, and maybe a little bit about what you are doing now.
Yeah, of course. So I always think it's funny, always looking back in the past of where you've been, just kind of the handprints of just God in your life taking you to where you're currently at in life. So when I was 5 years old, I kind of always say this. I didn't wake up one day and be like, you know what, I want to manage people's money for a living. I don't think any 5-year-old does that. They want to be a superhero or whatnot. But looking back, raised by a single mom, growing up, we lived paycheck to paycheck. It was kind of a tough life, but at that point, I kind of learned I wanted to help people. Fast forward to a little bit later in life, my grandma's retired. She had some investments. She inherited my grandfather's entire 401k from General Motors, and the market was not doing well. And she was with an advisor that kind of sat on his hands and didn't do anything. And it unfortunately opened up my eyes to the bad side of the financial industry pretty early. And at that point, I kind of knew I wanted to help people with their finances so they didn't have to go through the same things that my grandma was going through, making sure that she was going to be okay, have enough money. But it really opened up my perspective to where I am now, where it's getting people out of the survival mindset, making sure they're going to be okay, setting that standard. But what can we do with the money to be impactful in the future? Really finding that purpose and alignment. My life over the last several years has been kind of a whirlwind with everything happening, a lot of adjustments, a lot of movement. I've kind of went through a time period where things were stripped away and God revealed who I really was. But it brought a lot of clarity and reaffirmed why I do what I do. And I think it's made my conviction a lot stronger and the relationships with my clients even better. So I really kind of all saying that, again, the tough times are not easy. They're not fun. You kind of look back and be like, I don't want to go back through that. But it's the most rewarding times of your life. Yeah. And I think growth is the stretching, and it is the pruning, and it is the ironing, sharpening iron. But it makes you the person you are today and can steward where God's taking you in the future. So I'm very blessed to be where I'm at, my team, kind of everything, and working with amazing clients and families and business owners on a daily basis. Just giving them clarity on their finances and making sure that where they're going is where they want to be in the future.
Yeah. That's good. That's a lot to take on. And I remember talking with you a little bit through the difficult time, and your perspective was right. It was something that would have broke a lot of people in that moment. Like, you stood firm in your faith, you knew where to go, and you had a great perspective in our conversation. It really was a moment where I got to know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that with me, but it just shows your character and where you go, and that you really are rooted in faith.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, life is struggle. I mean, if Jesus came here and struggled even for his life and time on earth, is it that we're not supposed to struggle, you know, and just knowing that, like, that's part of our build. That's why we're here. Life is struggle.
And it is a place, I think, of it goes back to that verse about pick up your cross daily
Yeah.
and carry it. And the cross is not light. The burden is not light either. But that's where God's grace comes in.
Yeah.
It's God's grace coming in there. And just like what you said, we kind of got to know each other a little bit better. You hearing where I was at the time. And on the outside, everyone says your faith was strong, but don't let it fool you. There was a lot of times in the dark, behind the doors and the walls and alone, where it's just like, I don't know if we're going to be okay. I don't know if we're going to make it. And I kind of remind myself during those times that is where people quit. That is where people either make the decision to kind of go the easy route, or is the dream really worth it? And I think it gives you kind of the shoulders to carry where God's taking you. But very powerful time. Again, not a fun time.
No.
But it really, I feel like where I'm at now, having the team I do, having the amazing families and clients that I have, I was not in a position in that season to be able to be where I'm at.
Right. Yeah. Because you're on the other side now. You're in the promise that people that you cannot see when you're being broken, and you're thriving right now.
Yeah,
I think you're
to a certain
either
degree.
farther ahead now, or like you're going to be, or you have the potential to be farther than you were, even at that last situation, and it's really cool to see that.
I really do appreciate that. I do. And I appreciate the encouragement. I think encouragement is one of the things, just the people you have in your life. I mean, that will either take you to that next level, or it will kind of drag you down. I always reference my corner toters, people in my life, where it's kind of goes back to that verse in the Gospels, or the story in the Gospels, where the man was on the mat and he was injured and he was not doing well and he needed to go see Jesus, but it was his friends carrying him to the church where Jesus was and lowering him from the top. And he looked at the man and he said, because of your friends, you are healed. Get up and walk. So sometimes your faith isn't strong enough to get you there, but that's why having some guys in your life to uplift you and take you to the healer, the one who knows all, is the most important thing.
That's good, man.
That's such an interesting thought. I haven't really ever thought of it from that perspective, I guess, that the reason that man was healed was not because of his own faith. It was because of the people around him that surrounded him and brought him up.
Of course.
And I think we can all relate to that in some regard, especially if you've had any level of success in your life. You can look around you and see the people that you've had in your corner from the beginning, or that have stepped in along the way. And you look at them and say, I wouldn't be where I am without you having done what you did, even if it wasn't anything, even if it was just support or an encouraging word, or get together for coffee and say, hey, how are things really going?
Yes.
Like, I see how you're acting, but give me the real story.
What's happening behind the scenes?
Exactly.
Let's kind of pull the curtain back and see what's going on. I mean, even this week, very honestly, I sat my team down Friday. I said, it was a rough week, guys. If it wasn't for you guys doing what you do on this team, we wouldn't be where we're at. And we're kind of getting to that place, not in a bragging way, but our bad weeks are a lot of people's good weeks.
There you go.
And that's not how it always was. Our bad weeks were the worst thing out there. And you're like, things are going to end here. And I'll never forget looking back, even going back to like tough times. I think the thing that defines success, because you can have quick success, but longevity, sustained success over decades, that comes from character development. And character development can only be during tough times. I mean, any entrepreneur that's been around, that their name, it's kind of a household name that has been around for a long time, they went through a season where they're like, I don't know if we're going to make it.
Yeah.
But it's continuing to stay the course. Because of their faith, because of their grit, tenacity, endurance, they're now able to have an impact, not just in their families' lives, them being kind of the one, but they're impacting not just their customers or clients, but also all the lives of their employees. And I think that's the most beautiful thing.
It is. It's good. And I was just struggling with that earlier this week, literally, was I go and I sit down and I look at things, look at numbers, try to figure out, man, I don't feel like I'm ahead enough. I don't feel like I have enough. But I was like, I lost sight of what I was doing it for.
Yeah.
This isn't something I threw a dart at a phone book and tried to make something. It was a calling. God said, this is where I need to get you moving so we can give back. My vision statement, my mission statement for my business has nothing to do with a certain number being in my bank account. It was always about making sure we're giving, making sure we're being generous and stewarding with what we have. And so I just needed that reminder, because then it was like, man, I had peace. and we just prayed about it and moved on, because it was never about that. But
Yeah.
it's staying diligent,
Yes.
staying true, and remembering why you're there. Because if I trusted him when it was a calling, when I started it, what's changed? Nothing. Okay, it's a little tougher right now, or it's not looking the way I think it should. It wasn't my plan in the first place. Like,
Yeah.
that's the realization you got to get to.
Of course, you're like, if I would have been trying to get me here, it would have been a lot worse situation. So, and it is a place of, it is faith taking that next step, and it is faith continuing to show up when things aren't going your way. If you guys don't get anything else from the podcast conversation today, alignment and purpose. Alignment and purpose will take you so much further than chasing a number, chasing ambition. But why are you doing what you do?
That's great.
And you always have to remind yourself of that. Especially, you guys get this being a business. I deal with people's money every day. I have clients worth a couple $1 million. I have clients worth a couple tens of thousands of dollars, kind of everywhere in between. I tell my entire team, you don't treat any family different from one another. You treat somebody with $2,000 or $100 the same way you do a $20 million client, and a $20 million client the exact same way as somebody in that other position.
Yeah.
Always treat them with the same respect that you would want to be given in their position. And I think that is a big thing that separates me from a lot of advisors or just business people, is looking at people as far as what their net worth is or how much can they offer me. Really, I want to be in a place where the fee or the compensation I make from a business owner or client, whatever it may be, the value we give them well surpasses what they're paying me. And that's always my goal through and through.
Sean and I talk a lot about, to your point, alignment and purpose. We tend to talk a lot about purpose and legacy, and how those two
Of course.
are so, they parallel in a lot in the same way. You know, we tend to look at legacy more from a perspective of what are we leaving our kids and our extended family down the road that we don't know and may never meet in generations beyond, that have already forgotten who we were. But purpose, creating a legacy of purpose where your kids and your grandkids and the generations beyond have a purpose designed to follow Christ, for one, but to build something on a solid foundation of faith and integrity, as you were saying, with every client being treated the same regardless of their financial status. And there's so much value there.
There is. And I think you brought up a great point, and that's a whole nother conversation where I like to break it down from the standpoint, we have legacy and we have inheritance. And inheritance is the physical asset, the thing that you leave behind when you leave this earth.
That's good.
Because that time is always going to be coming. But we have the legacy side, and the legacy is the intangible thing that you leave behind. So I don't have kids, I'm not married, but when I do have kids, I'm really hoping they didn't go through the same hard work to build what I've built, but I want them to have the same work ethic as if they did.
Yeah.
I want them to have the same faith that when they go through a hard time, because if rain falls on the just and unjust. It may not be the same degree of what I was in, but they're going to be going through something.
Yeah.
That they stand firm, 10 toes down on their faith. They kind of draw a line in the sand and say, this is where I am. There's no turning back. There's no turning back. And they continue on that path of their faith with Christ, or even the stewardship of continue to have the heart of generosity. I think it's very convenient. We go to Experience Church here in Defiance, Ohio, and we're kind of going through that financial series right now. No better way to parallel that with conversation today, I think. But having that heart of generosity, because I think Pastor Kyle, shout out to Pastor Kyle, but I think what he said really hits home from what I've seen is the clients and families I work with that have the most money, unfortunately, sometimes are the least generous. And it really has to be a conversation I prompt. I'll never stand in my office and beat my faith into someone. I don't feel like that is what we're called to do. But the questions I ask, we can start talking about that topic without having to say it out loud of, we're going to be okay, but you have all these millions. What are we going to do? Because a lot of times when you have somebody like that and we don't have that purpose, alignment, the generosity, when the stock market goes up or down a couple percent, we get very nervous and we have that closed fist instead of an open hand, realizing this isn't what we did. This was a gift and a blessing from the one above.
I had heard a long time ago that when you're feeling insecure about finances, which most people do all the time, regularly, the best way to counteract that is to give You just give. Maybe you're feeling a little tight, you just give anyways. So when I was out on my run the other day, dealing with this very thing where I'm looking at our accounts going, it just doesn't feel like we're there yet. I was out running and I'm praying, of course. And he wasn't like, just wait longer, hold on. It was like, you need to give. I'm like, no, that's not, no, that doesn't even compute. Like that doesn't numbers well. And so I'm out running and God's like, you need to give. So I got home and I'm like, okay. And so I texted my wife and I'm like, we're going to give a little bit out of the businesses real quick. She's like, weren't you just saying that you were a little concerned about? I was like, yeah, but we were supposed to, this is how we battle the insecurity of the financials, in which I think it's supposed to look like. So we gave, and I had a resounding amount of peace over me.
That's amazing.
It was weird, and it's just like, okay.
This is how you know you made the right decision.
It was a reminder why we're doing it and whose it is. It's not mine anyways. I don't care if there's $1 in there or 50,000 in there. It's not even mine anyways. So it was just one of those things, but I love what you're saying because it's that this is your heart for it. Relationship and stewardship for your clients and your partners.
Of course.
That's a good segue into question 2, and I want to ask Jacob this question, and that is, define what successful stewardship is beyond the balance sheet. What does that look like for you, in your opinion, in your experience with clients and the history that you have in the investment industry? What does that look like?
Of course. So we kind of have to, like I said, start with the state of the union, make sure you're going to be okay. We want to see the rate of return, but it might come from a place of seeking a rate of return, but stewardship, once you cross that threshold of retirement or at that certain point where we have enough, it might be lessening risk. So we steward the upside a little bit better, because if we do that, we're going to have a lot more to give away or kind of manage one day. It kind of goes back to the story of the 10 talents. Making sure you're managing what you have properly. But for me, it comes down to the alignment and the purpose of the families, because once we get to retirement, especially with males, I've seen is so much of our life and our identity is consumed by what we do. God called us to work. We do that for so long. Once we hit retirement, it's this place of, or when we ever call it quits, it's, well, I don't have that anymore. So we have our money, we continue to look at that, but what's the purpose of it? If we're not going to spend it all, where do we go from here? And it's really amazing to see where a lot of times we have the retirement plan, we have the estate plan, the tax plan, but the piece we're missing is that generosity plan. How is our giving plan? It's not an afterthought. It has to be part of the conversation, and it's a great way to tie things together. But if we're going to be okay financially in our lives, then what are we going to do with all this extra money? And just from my experience, what I've seen for doing this for such a long time is when we do start giving, it's amazing how just more continues to show up. It just continues to be a blessing. I mean, pressed down, shaken together, overflowing in the future. So that's really how I measure success. I'm not saying risk is bad. We're all kind of business owners. We're all like very addicted to risk at a certain point. But then there comes a point where we have enough risk and you have enough money and everything. Well, how do we start taking some of the risk off the table to be able to steward it in a proper way? So it's a great kind of conversation. And what do you want to do with your life? I mean, you have grandkids, because I think a thing we saw a lot in my industry was over a decade ago, it was, well, I'm retired. I hate the snow up here. I hate the ice and the wind and, Northwest Ohio weather. I'm going to go buy a place in Florida. And everyone would sell everything, move down to Florida, but their family, their grandkids, everything was up here. And they would get down there for 6 or 9 months, and they're like, I'm just very unhappy. It's because your purpose, your grandkids, your family, your legacy is up here. So having to come back, and it's finding that balance. So I'll have some snowbirds. Instead of buying a place, they'll go down for a month, get their beach fix in, if you will, and then they'll come back. And that really is the legacy portion, where it is pouring into the grandkids, pouring into the family members. It's actually really funny. One of my business friends, he had a very interesting perspective between kids and parents. So with your kids, you see them every single day until they're 18. But even after they're 18, you're still going to have a long timeline with them. A lot of times with our parents on the other side, it's a place of, once we are busy, we have businesses, we have a job, we have a spouse, we have kids, life gets busy. We might see them on the holidays or maybe 5 or 6 times a year. We don't have as much time with them left. We may only see them another 50 times. You're going to see your kids probably another 365 times just this year. So making sure that you're spending the time where it really is, you're not going to be able to get it back. Money, You'll be able to get it back potentially, depending on what's going on, obviously. But that time with loved ones, really where the legacy is, that's the important thing.
Yeah, I've been personally working on that one myself, is making those opportunities a priority, because I struggle with that. I do. My sister's really amazing about it.
Yeah.
And so I've been working on getting more around family when the opportunity presents itself, instead of being, I'm too busy. It's like, no, I'm not too busy.
I think balance as a whole, just kind of going down that rabbit hole, I think balance is kind of a myth in my mind, especially being a business owner, because you could be wearing the CFO hat and now you're like business development hat, and then you got to wear the dad hat or husband hat or whatever other hat you have in your life. But really being focused where your feet are at, that's where you are.
Yeah, be present.
Be present. Like, leave the office at the office. If you have a home office, once you cross that threshold of your office to the rest of the house, leave it there as much as possible. You're going to have those instances, but
I agree.
Having a full undevoted hour with someone is a lot more beneficial, in my opinion, than 6 hours of your mind being 15 different places.
Yeah.
So that's something it's a tough thing. Yeah. I think it's a tough thing for all of us. It's something that I've really been working on here in the last year or so.
It's just shifting it around. I just heard, like, if you look at a scale, and a scale is at true balance, the needle's pointing at 0. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So it is about, you're not going to be in balance. You can't. If you're really driving for something, there's family, there's friends, there's business. It's just shifting. You just have to, you shouldn't have that scale all the way to one side or the other ever. But you got to jump over here sometimes, and then you got to jump back over here. But it's balance is not really a thing. You can't ever have it balanced.
No, and you're gonna have seasons, and having those grind seasons, just making sure it's good with the wife, the family, the inner circle. Like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and always having the end point. I mean, kind of all being in the business realm, you're gonna have those seasons where it is a sprint, but making sure I'm going to sprint until this is done, and then that next thing comes up, and that next thing, always moving the goalpost, but having a set dead time of, I need to go pretty hard from here to here, and then at that point, we're going to shift gears. Yep. And it's going to be seasons where it's a little bit more over here, a little bit more over here, just having that okay with the people in your life, making sure that's the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're working with your clients, and they're dealing with their wealth, and it's something, it's very tied to personal security when they're looking at their wealth. How are you helping guide them from the mindset of being an owner, which is typically, like you were saying earlier, what do I identify? I was an engineer for so long. I have this retirement. This is mine. From being an owner to being a steward with those accounts now, are you having those conversations with them, and what is that looking like when you're trying to get them to set up that fourth realm of their wealth, which is the generosity, like you were saying?
Yeah, of course. I think going back, I feel like a broken record, but making sure they're going to be okay. Because I think until we have that basic need of, we've done enough, because you have those people who, I grew up poor, very paycheck to paycheck. Are we going to pay the car payment? Are we going to pay the water bill? Having those really tough conversations. I understand it's tough to be in this longevity or generosity mindset if we don't make sure home base is taken care of. So making sure that's good to go. And it's even a place of, what I'll say is, depending the advisor, some advisors can do certain investments versus another. Usually with the families that work with me, what we're doing is figuring out how much they need in withdrawals, kind of putting that in a lower risk bucket, and then we can have some risk in there. But then it gets them to a place of, I'm going to be okay. Or a big thing that I do for a lot of retirees, once they're either the first 10 years or the last 10 years of them working, or the very beginning of their retirement, is a simple income plan. An income plan is kind of like what we do in business, forecasting what is long-term going to look like. But are you going to be okay in your lifetime? And if you are, how much is that bottom number going to be at the end of your life? Because once we know that, it's okay, we can kind of start backing ourselves into a corner of, how much do we want to start giving away here?
Cool.
And baking that into the equation of, okay, this is what I'm living on, I'm going to be okay, but what happens if I give away $15,000, $30,000, $60,000 a year to the church? And then the conversation becomes, what is the most tax efficient way to do that?
Yeah.
We want to give, and it's not all about a benefit for us, but we want to make sure the government's benefiting the least amount than anything.
Yeah.
Keeping more of what we own in our own pocket, I think, is important. And that goes to stewardship, because we don't want to just bury things underneath the dirt and not do anything. But I also don't want to freely just give tax dollars away.
I think that's a great answer and a great strategy, because you're sitting with somebody that's a person in the world that has been just ingrained from their youth, from their job, from their
Yes.
their 40-year career.
Yes.
With I need to make sure I have enough.
Yes.
So where you're starting is exactly where they need to be started, and that is I need to feel like I'm secure and I'm okay. I want to give. Everybody. I think a lot of people naturally have a heart and a desire to be able to benefit others and to give, but it's getting to the point where they go, I'm okay enough that I can give.
Yeah.
And that's hard to get there when we've spent your whole life not having enough, not feeling like enough, to be told now, like, you can't sit them down and be like, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's give away $80,000 a year.
Yes.
They're going to go, no way.
No.
So you're starting right where they're at,
Yes.
meeting them there, building that relationship, creating that comfort, educating them, showing them a plan, and then going, now it's okay, we can do this. And they go, you're right. You're right. We can do that. So I think that's a great answer.
It's very funny you say that. So any of my clients watching, I promise there is a method to my madness, because whenever a client comes into the office the first time, while I'm finishing up an appointment or I'm in my office, what my office manager does is give them a questionnaire. And they get the questionnaire and they're expecting probably a lot of questions about their finances. There's actually no questions about their finances on there. It's what's your favorite restaurant? Starting to give them some things to calm down their nerves, because finances are very emotional right off the get-go.
Yeah.
So kind of start calming the nerves with that. But there's some questions on there about what is retirement? Like, what are some hobbies you like doing? What are some clubs or organizations you're involved in? What do you do in your free time? And they're like, what's the point of this questionnaire?
The person.
Yeah. But the whole point is, hey, once we figure out you're okay, you already told me some things that you're interested in. I don't want you to give money away just to give money away. Give money away with where you, I guess, enjoy being a part of. So if you're in Rotary, give money to maybe the Rotary organization, or maybe you're involved in the church, and usually people will put that on there. Well, are you giving in the offering plate each week? Yes, I am. Well, you're doing it this way. Did you ever think there might be a little bit better way to do that that's a little more tax efficient? And they're like, oh, I never thought about that. Well, if it's tax efficient with what you're doing, you're going to be okay. What are your thoughts on maybe giving a little bit more in the future? And really start driving that conversation. And it's once they realize they're okay and you have this large amount at the end of the day, well, we can start making that impact now instead of at the end of your life. And that's been a big, I think, mindset shift in my industry, where people are going for the largest amount of money at the end of their life.
Yeah.
And it's been a big shift now where it's maybe I want to give the money away now to see that impact as I'm alive. And it doesn't have to have my name on it, but it could be something where I can actually see the fruits of my labor and what God's put me through. So whether that's to the kids, because I always tell families who want to give money to maybe their grandkids, if you give a 20-year-old $15,000 to start out, that's going to be a lot more impactful in their life rather than them being 45 or 55 down the road. So maybe it's helping them start that business. Maybe it's college. I think college is a whole conversation by itself.
Yeah, we could have an episode on that.
I was say we could have an episode on that. I was gonna say I'm a proponent only going to college if you need it. Don't go to college just to do the normal thing. Ask yourself why and if you need it. A big thing in Ohio or other states is a like college kind of fund through the state. Well, what you can do is, instead of maybe doing it that way, so the kid has to go to college, you put that money in an account, have it grow. So if they want to go to college, they can use it. But maybe they want to start a business. And that might sound crazy and it's a big risk for them. But guess what? They have kind of a buffer that they can use to at least try the venture.
Sure.
Because, I mean, I had some businesses I started in college that didn't make it. It was kind of the DoorDash before the DoorDash and some other things here and there that didn't make it. But it taught me a lot to get me to the spot.
Sure.
So being able to help the kids in that capacity, that's a great legacy and inheritance. But being able to give to the charities and whatnot of things that they're a part of and truly enjoy and seek benefit of.
That's good. So we're talking about that generosity thing. And I think a lot of us have heard this, and I know some people will attach themselves to it, is that when you start having the giving conversation, they want to associate tithing to generosity. Mm-hmm. So they may sit across from you and they're like, we're already tithing. Mm-hmm. We're already giving that percent. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
How have you ever had to navigate that to show them there's a difference between tithing, which is what we're called to give back, versus generosity, which goes beyond that?
Of course. And that's usually where it goes, where usually at that point where they throw the tithing word around, then I kind of pull the curtain back and say, I'm a Christian, so I absolutely understand. I give 10%, and that's my tithe. I give it to the local storehouse, but the generosity portion is above and beyond. And people feel like, oh, I have all this money and I have to. If we're going to have that mindset, God would kind of prefer, I feel like, in my opinion, we not do that.
Correct.
He wants to have us a joyful heart. So once if we're in that spot, then we can kind of go over things, but it might not be something that we do immediately when we have the conversation.
Makes sense.
But for me, it's planting the seed. It's kind of like going to spread the gospel. You might not convert someone then or get them to start following Jesus then, but you're planting a seed that might come to fruition one day.
That's a good answer.
So a lot of times what I'll do is plant that seed and they're going to say no. But a lot of times what I've seen is they get several years down the road and said, hey, I'm actually part of this organization and there's this big need for whether it's an orphanage, whether it's a outreach project, and they've come to me for help and I have the money. I know that we've went through everything. You kind of mentioned the generosity piece several years ago. What does that look like for me now?
Cool.
And how can we make this happen the best way possible? So it's all about, I think when we think generosity, it's giving up our entire lifestyle for now. And I think if you're in a spot out there, because I've been in a spot where money's been tight, I haven't been able to give, and I had somebody say one time, well, if I'm tithing and I'm generous now, I have to give up this and this and this and like rearrange my life. And I'm like, it's kind of the part of being a Christian. It's rearranging your life to put Jesus first, to be able to do that tithe.
That's so true.
But once you get to a certain point where you're going to be okay, the generosity is, how's your heart with it? Mm-hmm. And it's planting those seeds over several years. So eventually it's, maybe we are interested in that. Yep. I can't control that. That's kind of up to the man upstairs, but I can be the one to kind of help facilitate that conversation. Maybe start the conversation rather than me waiting for them to do that.
Yeah, that's good.
I found for my later years here, as I've gotten a little bit older, maybe a little bit wiser, that finances really are a heart condition. Mm-hmm. Your heart condition is going to drive where your finances are. They're going to drive your mentality towards finances, towards impact.
Yes.
And if you're a miser and you have lots of money, it's going to make you more of a miser. It's going to make you a bigger jerk.
Yeah.
And if you have a heart to be a giver and a heart for generosity, more money is going to be the opportunity for you to do more of what your heart is already telling you you're supposed to do.
I love it. Money just amplifies more of who you are.
No, 100%.
It does. Like whether if you have $100 in the bank and you're gripping onto it, if you have $100,000, you're just be gripping onto it even harder. There is no difference. So starting the habits now earlier rather than later. I mean, I'm very thankful to be part of a faith or biblically based church that pushed it so much when I was younger, because it's kind of transitioned over. I kind of have people on the business front ask me, well, what's your end goal? Like, where do you want to be? For me, I really don't have kind of that end goal in mind. For me, I look at the impact. I'm in a very unique industry where I tell clients the next dollar, the next client's not going to change my life. But the more clients I have, the more impact I have and can help the generosity, create the clarity that they may not have. Even if we don't work together, I can send them in the right direction with a good plan. But the money that I make, it allows me to be more generous. And that can be both with charities, with the church. And a big thing that I'm passionate about as an entrepreneur is I feel I have a direct obligation to create opportunities for others. And creating the opportunities is not paying them the industry standard salary and just enough for them to make it ends meet, but being able to bless them above and beyond what they could ever imagine. And it's not me, it's from him above. And I'm just a vessel, and I just continue to pray that God expand my vessel, make it stronger, so I can be carrying more blessings to his people at the end of the day.
We pray that all the time. Every day.
Amen.
In my home, we pray that the Lord shows us opportunities where we can be a blessing to others.
Yes.
And maybe that is financial, and maybe it's not. Like, there's so many other ways that you can be a blessing to others outside of the financial realm. We tend to talk about that because it's what we are doing on this podcast. It's financial conversation based on faith and family.
Of course.
But it goes so much further than that. The heart of generosity is not just financially based,
It's really like going back to the heart of it. I mean, I feel that I compensate my team very well, but on the other side, I give them financial planning. If they need advice about a house purchase or a car purchase, it's my time and expertise that I'm opening up for them free of cost. Or whether it's somebody at church that says, hey, I have this question about X, Y, and Z. I mean, I've gotten several phone calls on Saturday from people at church saying, hey, I have to make this decision, and I'm not too sure. I'm not sure what this 401k is or what this is. And it's simply just giving them advice. I'm not soliciting services, but just helping them understand what they have and where they're going, and just giving them some clarity on the situation. As I get further along in my career, I have a bigger heart for that. Like, where I really want to be at the end of this is I obviously want to continue being an advisor, bringing on families, growing my business in that capacity, having more impact, but being more on that coaching front, helping. I mean, I grew up without a father. I think it's a big part of who I am and my story, and being able to pour into individuals who a little bit younger, maybe high school, who were struggling the same way I was, be able to pour into them and kind of guide them and just kind of be that masculine role model, I guess, for them that they might not have in their life. That's something that's very fulfilling for me, that there's no dollar figure part of that. It's just that generosity portion, along with outside of the financial, I guess, kind of where you're going with that.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
That's the goal. When you mention alignment and purpose, for me it is fulfillment.
Yes.
Like fulfillment.
Yes.
Money's fine, business is fine. Whatever it is you're doing, whether financial advising, real estate, that's great. But if you're going to bed at night and you're fulfilled, because you've been aligned and you had purpose in the day, I mean, that's the reward.
I want to call that impact investing.
Yeah. I think that's a great term, and it's a place, just you guys saying that, I look back at seasons of my life I went through, and there were seasons in my life where I'm working ridiculous hours, but because the alignment, because of the purpose, and because of the impact, time flew by. It didn't feel like I was working double or triple what I was at the time. So it's very powerful, and I think that is, once you are in alignment and you've been through that, you understand. But if you're out there and you're like, I don't know, working 60, 80 hours, whatever it is, as an entrepreneur, that sounds daunting. If you're in alignment, it doesn't feel that way.
It doesn't. We were just talking about that. Like, I'm always thinking this Thursday or this Friday, this is going to be my day where I'm just going to chill a little bit, do a couple things in the morning, call it a day. Never happens. This guy
We just did that yesterday.
We're at the bank. We're working on something. I'm literally working on something else while we're in the bank working on something, and we're both like laughing and smiling, going, "This is what we do now."
Yeah.
And it's really, that's the fulfillment.
Yeah,
like, I don't feel like I'm working. Like, we're just laughing and doing stuff. And
there was, I mean, even on my side, I think there was last week it was around 25 appointments I ran. The last week it was around 32, 33. People look at that and they're like, how do you do that? That's a lot of peopling and a lot of talking and everything. And I'm just like, I love it. Yeah, we're talking numbers, we're talking finances, but at the end of the day, these are relationships. These are people. They have stories. And I just get so filled up by that. Cool. I kind of started out in college actually as a computer engineer. I was like, I love coding. Let's do this thing. And I got behind a computer. I'm like, absolutely not. No. First semester, I'm like, take me out of this. I missed the people side.
You would have been in a box, bro.
I was like, you kind of get put in a room with no windows, shut door. I think there's a basket in the corner for you if you have to use it. Yeah. But I really miss the people side, and I think I found a really good balance where I can have that analytical mind, but have that people-centered focus as well. And it's been, it kind of goes back when you're going in the wrong direction. It's kind of like you're in a sailboat with wind coming towards you. Yeah. Once you're in alignment, you're in the same sailboat, but you're being propelled forward because the wind's behind you. Visual. So, and a lot of people maybe are out there trying to figure out what your purpose is. Just ask God. Ask God, continue to press in, and in general, what I tell people, whether it's career, life, whatever, if a door opens and it's an opportunity, pop your head in. Take a look. Don't have to stay there. If you pop your head in and you just don't feel the peace like you did after giving or being generous, then shut the door and keep walking down the hall, because there'll be another door that's open. So always trying new things. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I think if you want to really grow your faith, start a business. Like, that will propel your faith forward. It's a very trying and painful process at times, but that painful process is you kind of dying to yourself and your flesh.
I feel like the Holy Spirit sometimes will put things on your heart just to see what your obedience level is.
Yeah.
See if you're willing to pop your head through. Yeah. And then he'll say, just kidding, move on. Mm-hmm. You know, it's almost like okay, now I see you're willing. Let's try this.
Absolutely.
I see where your heart is.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, because even like this week, new opportunities were presented on the business front, and I didn't think we were quite there yet, but I'm gonna at least dip my toe in, see how things are, and pray about it, fast about it. And if it's not it, then in God's time, and he's just going to direct the business. I think being a business owner and having a faith, that is such an interesting combination. It's probably one of the most unique ones out there, I would say. I'm obviously biased in my own opinion, but you don't operate off of the entrepreneur gurus out there. Like, you might listen to some things and the Holy Spirit's like, yeah, this is the direction everyone takes and this is the logical one, but I actually want you to go this way. And which one are you going to follow? You're going to listen to me or you're going to listen to the world? And it's a gut check, if anything.
For sure.
Yeah. I've noticed too that, and Sean and I have had this conversation, golly, so many times. In fact, we've based some of our podcast episodes solely on the conversation of just being an action taker.
Yeah.
In entrepreneurship, in real estate,
Right.
in investing, in anything. If you're an action taker and you're constantly being presented opportunities and being willing to walk through some of those doors and continue to move forward and continue to move forward and continue to move forward, you're going to find that right thing.
Yeah.
You know, you'll step out of some things and step into other things, but you just have a heart of continuous action, continuous progress.
Yeah.
And it makes all the difference.
It's always like that self-improvement. I think faith, everyone thinks is the perfect decision. I think faith is also trusting that even if you make the wrong decision, God's going to redirect you on the path that you should be on.
Yeah.
So I've had opportunities in my life where there might be 2-3 different paths in front of me. And what I'll actually do is pray on it, and I don't get clarity on it, but I'll start down all those paths. And then it just so happens that maybe 1 or 2 of the other doors shut, and I have a clear path of the other one forward. It kind of goes back to that quote where a plan delayed but executed perfectly is not as good as an imperfect plan executed now.
Agreed.
Just take action. It does not have to be perfect conditions, because guess what? If you're looking for the perfect conditions, I hate to break it to you, it's probably not going to come upon you.
Good luck.
So just take that step of obedience if you feel that on your heart. Move in that direction and trust that the Lord's going to direct your steps.
Yeah.
The Bible says so right there. He'll direct your steps if you submit your life to him and surrender.
Yep. The next question is yours, Sean.
What we got? True stewardship involves preparing the next generation. What's the most important non-financial values you encourage your clients to pass down alongside their assets to ensure their legacy is handled?
Man, that is a very tough and great question. It's been very unfortunate in my career to see amazing legacies or inheritances get passed along, and then they're squandered very quickly just because there was no true legacy. It was just an inheritance. So very first thing, very practical, and then we'll kind of go a little bit more intangible, but practical, making sure that whoever inherits the money, understands finances, understands what's happening. That's more the practical component. When we talk about passing the torch, non-financial character, I mean, when you look at trust fund kids, if you're a good trust fund kid out there, I'm sorry, but for the majority, when we look at statistics, a lot of times they're very low character, very flaky individuals, not responsible, go with the flow. Go with the flow is not bad, but intentionality is the key. Yeah. And I think going back to it, if you're a lazy individual, the Bible says there's really no way around that, and things will be squandered due to that. So I think work ethic is huge. Integrity is a non-negotiable. Responsibility is huge. And being able to be a role model for the next generation, whether you're in a position right now where you're not where you want to be in the future, I can guarantee you that somebody behind you is watching where you're currently at. And once you have that mindset, it changes everything. Like, a big perspective for me that I've realized in this last year of my life is waking up every day with the mindset that God chose me to be in the position that I am. Like, he said, Jacob, I want you to be at this high, at this low, in this struggle, because I need you for something in the future. I need to develop something in you. And even during those tired moments, just reflecting and being grateful of, God, thank you for entrusting me with the weight of this blessing that you've put upon my life or this calling upon my life. So at Heart of Gratitude, obviously we're faith-based individuals. Having a strong faith is huge, but those would be the big things I say just from my experience. And having tenacity. If you're in business, trust me, this is coming from someone who's done it a while, you're going to be told no a whole lot more than you're going to be told yes. And you can either take no as I'm not good enough or thank you, God, for redirecting me. It all comes down to perspective.
Yeah,
and
good.
Continue to put your faith in him. He will guide your steps. And I think going even a verse, it's in the Psalms, trust in the Lord with all your heart and he will give you all the desires of your heart. I think there's a big misconception there where it's put your trust and understanding in the Lord. And what that does is your thoughts become his thoughts, or his thoughts become your thoughts. My apologies. And then he'll give you the desires of your heart. Well, if I want a Lamborghini and 5 houses and all this, that's not really his desires. But if I meditate on him, if I fast, if I pray, and his desires become mine, well, I'll have a heart of giving. I'll have a heart of unconditional love. And then those things will flow out from me. And then those will be the desires of my heart at that point. So I think those are the key things. Non-financial character is way more valuable. I think even in a hiring sense, I could have somebody who has A plus skills and D plus character.
Yep.
I will not hire them versus somebody with A plus character and attitude and C minus or D plus skills.
Yep.
Skills can be taught. Character just simply cannot.
Nope.
And that is something I kind of pride myself in, because whether that's employees, clients, family, it's all relationship. And that is paramount. And if you have a bad attitude, bad character, it's just going to be a cancer to the rest of the organization. And if it's something like, I've had people come to me and say, hey, I want to grow more. I want to have a path forward for promotion or whatever it may be. Well, that's an awesome kind of attitude to have. Let's find that path forward for you. What does that look like? Maybe it's a little bit more responsibility. Maybe it's some training. Maybe it's some education or certification. Let's make it happen. If that's your desire, I want to be the person for my team, for anyone in my life, where I move the obstacles. Like, they come to me with an obstacle, awesome. Let's move that out of the way so you can get there.
From a pass the torch perspective, it's going to be a little bit of a harder question for you specifically because you're not married and you don't have kids.
Yeah.
We both do.
Yeah.
And I've kind of...
Yeah, what do you guys look for with that?
With my kids, I've learned that they tend to follow what I do far more than what I say. Mm-hmm. They recognize my integrity and, my action, my behavior, my words. Mm-hmm. That's something that has actually come up recently is I don't swear. You will never, ever in your lifetime catch me swearing, period. Yeah. I just don't. But it's not like it's something that's challenging for me. It's just normal.
It's who you are.
It's who I am. And so they see that, and for that reason, they don't either. Now my kids are smaller, they're growing up, they go to school, I know that they are going to make poor choices at times, and they're going to be challenged to do the right things by other kids in their sphere of influence that maybe aren't doing the right things. But then they come home and they see how mom and dad act.
Of course.
My wife is the same way.
Yeah.
We don't, yell at each other. We have a high integrity level in everything that we do, whether it's communicating with each other or working with a client or a tenant or whatever the case might be. And so I found that the best way to pass the torch is to live a high integrity life yourself. Amen. And by doing that, your kids see what you do.
Yeah.
Your spouse sees what you do.
Yeah. Even those blind spots, I feel like just from the people in my life, there might be blind spots that I have and somebody says, hey, you always do this. Or do you notice that you do things this way? And I had no idea because it's such a small thing in my perspective that I missed. They're picking up on those things. So having that high integrity life, absolutely. And really, when I look at integrity, it is doing what you say you're going to do, but also being the person you say you are when people are around and when you're not.
Yeah.
Because even if you do things behind closed doors, that's going to flow out into public. So like we kind of said, I think before we filmed the podcast today, but for me, I'm very proud to say that who you see out in nature or in the wilderness is the same person you're going to see in all facets of my life. Yeah. Same person I am with clients is the same person I am with my family. And for me, it makes for a very easy life because I don't have to walk into a room and say, well, who do I need to be today? Or what mask do I need to wear? Or how do I need to act? Yep. It just all kind of flows. I can just be Jacob.
People don't think about how much stress there is when you are trying to put a facade on in a certain atmosphere and then go back over here and do this other thing. It's
tiring
incredibly
job.
Exhausting.
It's tough just being this guy right here. I can't imagine like having 8 more of me, you know, have to decide who am I going to wear today.
Yeah.
So it just makes things a lot easier. And for what I've seen, I've went through, there's a great men's movement, Becoming Man, down in Decatur, Alabama. But that's a big thing that we talk about quite a bit in our tribe is just be the person you say you are. Because a lot of guys specifically get very frustrated of them, like, I'm not here in life, or I'm disappointed about the trajectory I'm on. But you say you are this, but you're living this way.
Yeah.
And it creates a huge disconnect.
Yeah.
So be that person.
Yeah, I would say that that's more important than any number that you could put on a balance sheet from a financial perspective. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It's just a tool for impact. How are you impacting? And that goes beyond just the money, the finances. You know, your impact is a daily choice, you know, every single day with everybody that you come in contact with.
It is. And I hate using this, but think of obituaries. Think of eulogies. I mean, at funerals, it's not, oh, he was a great guy, he ended up with this much money. It was, no, how was he as a man? How was his character? How was he as a father, husband? All these different components.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's about a paragraph, and none of it's financial. Nobody's going to care, and I guarantee there's not a scoreboard up in heaven where they're saying, oh, you ended up with $2 million. If you were at 2.1, you would have made it. There's none of that. It's how was your character? And that's the thing that's going to be judged through and through. And I think that is, people care a whole lot more about how you made them feel versus what you say. People will always remember how you made them feel, not the words that came out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. So focusing on that through and through is, I think, crucial. And it kind of goes back to the rest of the financials. You can have all the money, but how are your grandkids going to remember you as? Yeah. And also, what memories and what life lessons and things are they going to have with them when the time does come you're no longer here?
Yeah.
That's a lot more impactful. And that, at the end of the day, is the legacy. What you leave behind, how you made people feel, and what kind of person you were.
Yep.
And that is purpose.
Yep. That is purpose.
That's so cool.
It is. And that is, I feel, the heart of everything. Purpose and identity are what drive every single one of us. And it's the thing that the whole Bible, it's God telling us who we are. Not who we say we are, but who he calls us and who he's made us. And that is the thing, I think, that separates someone who has the alignment and purpose versus kind of something they made up. Maybe your identity is being a business owner. Maybe your identity is being a husband or a father. And those are great things, but that's not who you are. And really leaning into that and claiming that.
Yeah.
You know, a real man stands for something and has boundaries.
Yeah.
And stands for those. Even if so I have an older son, is 17. And I know he listens to some rock music and stuff because he's that age, you know.
Yeah.
And he's at home the one day and he wanted to put some music on in the basement and everything, which is fine.
Yeah.
And he was trying to put on his music, certain music. And I'm like, I don't think so, man. And he's like, well, Dylan's 13 now. You know, he's 13. I'm like, it's not really an age thing, bro.
Yeah.
I said, that's a standard in this household. Mm-hmm. I don't need that loud pumping through here with that the language and stuff in the house. And so I had to stay in that boundary, even though he's trying to justify it by what the world is saying.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, that's not
Come on, Dad.
Yeah, right. And you want to be cool, Dad, but like,
I want to be one of the cool kids.
I'm staying on this boundary. You're not playing that in here. It doesn't matter how old he is. And so it's just, and those are the moments I hope they see as a strength, not as a weakness. You know,
of course.
He's probably frustrated in the moment, but I hope he reflects back to that and go, man, my dad stood for some things, and he wasn't going to be shaken in those moments.
Yeah, and I think that's impactful to know, because if you are standing for something, there's going to be people that just don't like you. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. I mean, it says in the Bible that you will be hated in this world because I came first and was hated just the same.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen, but standing on the integrity and who you want to be, I guess.
Just go to Scripture.
Amen.
That's what I do.
Amen.
So we had another one where so I have a second wife, so the stepmom to my boys,
Yeah.
And I remember the one day one of them crossed her a little bit, was testing the boundaries, and I got in their face and I said, "She's first." I said, "If you're gonna mess with her, you're gonna cross me."
Yeah.
I said, "You do not mess with my wife." And I know in that moment they're like, "But wait, Dad, we're your kids. This is
I'm
just
your son."
this is just a woman you married." And I'm like, "That's my wife." I said, "Scripture has an order,
Yeah.
and that's how I am in this household. So you guys will not cross her." And so
awesome.
I had to take that stand between my current wife now and my kids because Scripture says
Of course.
that order is to be held. And so it was another one of those moments, man, where it's like it almost doesn't make sense in the world because those are my kids, but it's like, no, God said this. This is what I live.
Yeah.
And but it's good, man.
Of course.
So let's transition just a little bit and talk about content that you have found to be valuable maybe in your own life,
Yeah.
and something that our audience can take away and maybe go listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video or a book that you might really like or something. Give us something that you have found to have value in your industry or in what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Either one, whatever you think.
I'm a big book person, more audiobook than anything else just because I'm in the car so much and traveling. But I would say The Generous Life by Robert Morrison.
That's a good one.
Absolutely phenomenal book. Like, just change your perspective of generosity and giving 1,000%. If you're looking for more of, because this is what I've just realized doing this for such a long time, is I can show people numbers. Money is more emotional than anything else. So the psychology of money, the author is escaping right now, but The Psychology of Money, it's a great book, kind of a quicker read, not too long, but it is something that dives into why do we spend money the way we do? Why do we save money the way we do? Why do we think of money the way we do? It's very interesting. I could have two families with the same exact kind of net worth or financials, and they manage it two different ways. And it just comes down to psychology. And a lot of people wonder, why do I ask them how they were raised around money? And then we kind of start tying the conversation of, oh, you like to have X, Y, and Z or X amount in your bank account because money was tight growing up.
Yeah.
And it creates a little bit of a safety net. It creates that cushion that makes you able to sleep at night. So the psychology of money is huge. Well, I'll just say on content, I think with the financial side, because it's such a saturated industry.
Yeah, it is.
Same thing with, I think, business side is first thing I kind of look for, are they faith-based? Depending if you are a Christian, I think that's going to be the best advice you can find. But make sure you understand what they do for a living, I guess. Because if you go to somebody that only does, let's say, money in the market, they're going to say money in the market's the absolute best thing. Annuities are terrible. If you go to an insurance person, they're going to say annuities are great. Money in the market's awful. There's going to be some people like myself who I don't have any boundaries being independent. I don't have a product list. Really, I look at someone's situation and say, this is some great options for you. What are your thoughts? I'll give some education, but make sure whatever you're listening to, you understand kind of the backside of it and their philosophy around money. Because Rich Dad, Poor Dad, great guy for business owners, somebody more on the traditional, I would say, employee side of things. Maybe not the best option just because of how he views debt. Debt is a financial tool, but I've seen a lot of consumers be way, way over leveraged in debt in certain areas. So, and you have to find somebody that matches your comfort zone and matches your own philosophy. And that kind of goes back to the identity. Like, what do you believe about money? And kind of go from there. So podcasts are great too. I listen to a lot of sermons in the car. There's some great ones. There's another podcast I like. It's called The Leader's Cut by Preston Morrison. He's out of a church out in Scottsdale, Arizona called Pillar Church. Absolutely phenomenal pastor I'd recommend and speaker, and he's got some great books as well. So yeah, that's kind of the top of the list.
I think I've been to Pillar Church.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Have you been out there?
I have not been out there, but I've actually, me and Preston Morrison, we've kind of DM'd back and forth, and he is absolute super genuine, super awesome guy. And he has some challenging things. Like one message he had, this is The Leader's Cut, his podcast. This was probably maybe a year and a half ago, but he kind of talks about new paths and new journeys and new chapters, and specifically on the business side. And it just can tie into so many different areas. But I was kind of in that realm of starting a new venture. And he said, all of us want the mansion startup, but you had a savior in a manger who started. And I was like, wow.
Dang, that's impactful.
I was like, that's something, I just got chills thinking about that. But it's one of those things where I want what I have in the future right now. And instead we never look at where we are versus where we were and seeing that gap. We always see the gap of where we want to be as large.
Yeah. So
and God will always, I wouldn't say always, but he will give you a vision for the future. And the thing personally that scares me is I know the vision he's giving me isn't anywhere close to what he could do and what he thinks and what he can imagine for my future. But when you can't see that plan, you're like, I don't know how this is going to happen. Well, good news, it's not on you. If he's shown you it, it's kind of like if you had to ask yourself, if you were guaranteed to be successful in the next 6 months, like your dream life, the question is, will you just show up every day? And that's another thing, I guess, going back a little bit to passing the torch, kind of rewinding a little bit, is be consistent and show up. You just have to show up. Even I think the toughest thing we talked about is you have a goal in the future and you have a terrible day or terrible week and you just feel demoralized. The question is, can you get up the next day and continue at it with the same enthusiasm and faith and not worry about the result? But those are some great, I guess, resources I'd recommend. And yeah, make sure you're getting some good advice. I don't want you to go down the wrong path of whatever you guys are doing. So
yeah. When I hear you say show up, what I actually hear is take action.
Yes.
Not
Take
just
action.
show up. Because
No,
I think a
you
lot
gotta
of
do
people
work.
here show up and you're like, well, okay, I'm here.
Yep. That's about it.
You know, like
Yeah.
it takes more than that. It's not
takes-
show up. It's
Take action.
It
when
is
you
show up. I don't want to
Right. No.
diminish what you're saying.
You're
but
absolutely right.
It's take action.
And I think a better way to say, instead of just show up, is like, I have a process. Like, I have a process I know to grow business. That's worked. I have a process to manage my finances, manage my business the way. Run the process. And it really kind of goes back to the very cheesy, trust the process. Mm-hmm. Develop the process, run the process, trust the process. Because when the process doesn't work, guess what? Get up the next day and run the same process, and it's going to work. If you go several days in a row or maybe a month out and it's not producing anything, then there might be an issue with the process. But if the process has worked for others, there's a good chance it's going to work for you. Is it optimized? Maybe not. But if you run that process consistently, you're going to get a result.
Yeah.
So get up, take action, trust the process. And that's going to be huge for you long term.
That's really good. What's your superpower?
Oh, goodness. I wish I could duplicate time and make 8 more of me, but that's not quite possible yet. I would say my superpower is being able to look at things big picture. I think being in business, being in finances, we talk about right now, but I have to look 8, 9, 10 steps ahead about where we want to go. Like, we want to be charitable in the future. Well, what does that do to your current situation? And everyone talks about AI. I do think AI, I'm pretty bullish on AI myself, but when we talk about AI, people are using it for decision making. I think it's a very helpful tool, but what it's doing is telling you the best thing to do right now. The thing it's lacking is telling you the best thing to do right now for where you want to be 8, 9, 10, 11 steps in the future.
That's good.
And that is something that's missed. So I feel like that's a big superpower of mine, just because, like I said, when clients come in, I'm asking them all these random questions on a questionnaire, and they're like, what the heck? And I'm doing that because I'm looking at because I know we're going to figure out a plan to make sure you're okay now, but what could we do after that, and what are you involved in to make the most impact, kind of thing. So being able to look long term, and even on the business front I have some other ventures that are currently starting. I look at my current business structure, tax structure, and I already know how things need to change and adjust in the next year, 2 years, 3 years in the future. But I have some smart people in my life to guide me through those times as well.
Would you call yourself a visionary?
I would say visionary. I'm very personality perspective. I'm a very high D. I'm a very visionary, goal-oriented. This is where we want to go. Don't bore me with the details. Don't make me do the details. I'm very much driving the ship, and let's get where we want to go. Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. We're partnered together.
As you explained it the way that you did, I see Sean in a lot of what you were saying.
So I think the question becomes, if you are a visionary, just what I've learned is there's 2 ways to build a business: hiring from the top down or hiring from the bottom up. For me, I'm a person, I hire from the bottom up, getting more off my plate so I can be more in that visionary CEO forward motion perspective. Mm-hmm. And that has, I will say, treated me better than I deserve long term. And even that being said, once you kind of have I wouldn't say the mundane. Everything's important in the business. Anyone who says just sales or just marketing or just finances is very naive. Everything's important. I hate saying everything's important. More things will be more important at other times. But looking long term, getting some of the lower value stuff for me off of my plate so I can have more professionals at the top to help me direct me where I want to go. Because I'm a true believer, us three in one room together is smarter than just one of us by ourselves. So getting some smart people in your corner and in your circle.
Better together. We say it
Amen.
so much.
And
Better together.
And it kind of goes back to that old proverb where it's, if you want to go quick, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I'm a true believer in that. I do think there's a place of having too many people speaking into your life. And this is where the discernment comes of weighing who needs to, who doesn't need to, and then kind of going in that direction.
That's good.
That's so true.
So, I mean, we are so thankful for having you on today.
Yeah,
This
thanks
was
for
a
having me,
great
guys. This is
episode.
awesome. I love it.
Hearing you share your heart for people, relationship, you have a desire to not only help manage wealth, build legacy, but also to improve the people you're working with on a personal level,
Yes.
which I just think is incredible. So what we want to do is make sure you share with the listeners right
of
now,
course.
how can they connect with you so they can get connected to somebody that's going to help fill them both personally, professionally, financially.
Yeah, of course. So probably the best way to reach me, social media. So Facebook, probably not the best go-to, but I have Instagram. It's jrblack99 on there. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Those are probably the two best ways to get in touch with me. I do have some pretty exciting things coming up in the future. Right now in the process of being a published author. So very exciting. New direction. Never thought I'd be writing a book in today's age, or at least a portion of it. So that's kind of in process right now. Do have a very exciting kind of venture starting beginning of next year. Kind of taking a step into your guys' role, getting podcasts off the ground with some content and part of that as well. And then diving a little bit more into business coaching. So probably my main thing right now is the financial advising. And clients kind of ask me, because I have business owners who are clients who will be moving over as well to the business consulting side or business coaching side. That being said, they're like, are you going to leave being an advisor? Absolutely not. That will always be my calling and what I do. I've just found a big disconnect between people getting their personal finances in order and then figuring out the business. It's usually kind of the same mess or uncertainty with that, with profit margins. So having a team help me out with that as well, it'd be a great kind of holistic approach. But very excited to kind of launch some content next year. So go ahead, follow me, and you'll be seeing a lot more on my social media come in the future about what that will look like. So
what
excited.
Demographic do you typically work with? Is it very broad, or is it more narrow, or
So
what do you think?
It's very broad. Like I said, I have clients worth a couple $1 million and I have clients worth a couple $1,000. I always say if it's a good fit and you find value in the relationship, both sides of that coin, we'll find a way to work together. A lot of my younger folk are clients that I have, it's their kids who either started a job, maybe they transition jobs and they have an old 401k. We were able to roll that over. But their conversations are way different of, I want to buy my first house. Give me some recommendations on that. I'm saving for retirement and I want to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's start a family. They're having their first kid, be able to balance all these goals with the long-term vision in place as well. For those who are getting close to retirement, that's usually where they start seeking out advice or an advisor, or even those just into being retired. There's kind of this term I coin, the fragile decade. So the last 5 years of you working, or the last 5 years of your career, and the first 5 years of your retirement is where you can make or break the rest of your retirement, whether that's with taxes, whether that's with investing, whether that's with risk or income or Social Security or pensions. Really getting a grasp on that will set the tone for the rest of retirement. And retirement's just different. I have a lot of people who come in and say, well, this is how my taxes are going to be, or this is how my income is going to be. Retirement is this amazing thing where not only do you have control of your time and location and what you do on a daily basis, but now you have control of your taxes, your income, and your investments. So being able to take advantage of that, and usually the people who are coming in for more of those retirement conversations, it's going to be a place of, how do we minimize your taxes? How do we make more money and have you keep more of what you make? How do we manage the investments in a more efficient way now that we're taking money out of the portfolio?
That's good.
Because what a lot of people don't realize is I wouldn't say easy. It's just a different game saving for retirement, putting money into the portfolio versus taking money out. You have to make sure that we're losses, risk, all this is in alignment with the taxes as well and the income picture. And then on the business owner side, I have a client, he just came on last week, and he owns a business. It's a partnership, so he has 5 other partners, and he's about 10 years or so out from retirement. And it's a place of me stepping in to help him and his partners get the business structured the way it needs to. But they also have employees. And this is the amazing thing about what I do, is coming in with a retirement plan now. Now, every single one of those employees can get a financial plan done, because there's a statistic that 9 times out of, or I think it's like 75% of employees think about their finances, their personal finances at work at least 5 times a day.
Oh, yeah.
So it decreases production so much. So to give them clarity as an employer benefit, essentially, is crucial. It's huge. And we're having impact in their lives, his partner's lives, his life, get the business structure, and we're also cleaning up his financials. So it's a big project, but those are the things that excite me at this point.
Very
so,
cool.
but if you're somebody out there who has just a little bit simpler of a situation, I'd rather give you a plan, us not work together, you have clarity and go down the street, than you continue kind of into the abyss. So,
But we would encourage
of course,
folks that are listening to call Jacob and work with him.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I never turn anybody away. Let's say that.
And I think you'll find that Jacob does practice what he preaches. He's a man of high integrity. He has good character, and his intentions for you are the very best. And even if that's not working directly with him, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, like I say, even if it isn't a long-term relationship, if I can give you clarity on a question or what's going on in your situation, or even give you a plan and a direction, and us kind of part ways as friends, that's absolutely fine as well. So,
Yep. We had another financial advisor that had come on several weeks ago. He was actually one of our first guests that is similar in that way, and that's Jason Demlin. And you guys both worked together for a while. You were just getting out of college, I believe, right?
I was just getting out of college, and Jason and I had the pleasure of working together for a couple years there.
Yeah.
But absolutely phenomenal advisor as well. And that's the thing I'll say, is I'll never tear down an advisor. But I want to make sure who you're working with is a good one, and Jason's one of those guys.
Yeah. So either one of these guys would be incredible. We're honored, so grateful that you were able to come and be with us.
This has been a great time.
Yeah, it's always fun to get together and have conversations with people who align both on a spiritual level and a financial.
Of course,
of
course. It's very rare, I think, in today's world, especially with keeping up with the Jensens, keeping up with the Robinsons next door kind of thing. Yeah. It's very cool to have this alignment. Go back to the alignment and purpose,
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Surround yourself with good people. It'll take you a long, long way. Better together.
Absolutely. I think that is the key thing to everything. If you didn't get anything from the podcast, go with a good group of guys or people in your life going in the same direction. So
100%. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you to Jacob for being on the podcast. Go find us on all of our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Ooh,
I remembered it that time.
There you go.
Hey.
Let's go. Very excited.
So go check us out. Communicate with us. We love to chat with you guys. And if we can be of assistance in some way, we would love that. We're honored that you guys tune in and listen to us, and we hope you'll come back for the next one. We'll see you later.